Welcome to Municipal Affairs. Once again, changes sweeping through Alberta's Ministry of Municipal Affairs, a department that has seen no fewer than 18 different ministries in the last 25 years. That kind of turnover raises more than just eyebrows. It raises questions about the long-term stability and direction. To understand the scale of this, we only need to look back at the track record. The leadership of the ministry has resembled a revolving door. It began with Walter Paszkowski in 1999, followed by Guy Boutilier, Rob Renner, and Ray Danyluk, with Danyluk managing to hold the portfolio the longest in those early years. But then things picked up pace after 2010. In just 5 years, the role changed hands 6 different times. Hector Goudreau, Doug Griffiths, Ken Hughes, Greg Weadick, Diana McQueen, all cycled through the post in a rapid succession. More recently, the trend continued under the NDP and the now UCP. Darren Billis, Daniel Larrabee, Shay Anderson, Casey Madhu, and Tracy Allard, each serving short stints. Rick McIver, who has now held the position twice, most recently from 2023 until earlier this week, became one of the longest serving ministers, though his tenure was briefly interrupted by current Environment Minister Rebecca Schultz. Now, Joseph Scow steps into the role. For now, as an interim capacity, becoming the minister's 18th occupant in just a quarter of a century. Now, McIver's departure was swift. Earlier this week, he announced he would be stepping down, only to be elected days later as the new Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, following Nathan Cooper's resignation to become Alberta's new envoy in Washington. Premier Danielle Smith quickly tapped Scow, currently Minister of Tourism and Sport and Government House Leader, to fill the vacancy, at least in the interim. Despite the churn, the importance of municipal affairs portfolio remains unchanged. The ministry oversees key legislation, including Municipal Government Act, the Emergency Management Act, the Local Authorities Elections Act. These laws shape how communities operate, respond to emergencies, and govern themselves at the ballot box. And speaking about elections, the timing couldn't be more significant. Alberta's next municipal elections is just months away, scheduled for Monday, October 20th. With new political parties entering the fray and recent changes to election rules, this vote could look very different from those in past years, and municipalities are watching closely. So what does yet another leadership change mean for Alberta's cities, towns, and villages and summer villages? To explore the impact of Rick McIver's departure, the challenges ahead, and the state of municipal governance, we sat down with Alberta Municipalities President Tyler Gandam to get his perspective on where the province's communities go from here. President Gandam, thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting about the most recent sort of revolving door of municipal affairs. Rick McIver has stepped down, has become the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, and interim Minister of Municipal Affairs, Joseph Scow, is now Minister as of recording this interview. It may change by the time we're done, but as of right now, it is Minister Joseph Scow. From Alberta municipality standpoint, this has probably been a sort of upheavaling week for you guys.
Yeah, actually a little bit it has. We were hearing rumors that cabinet shuffle was in the works, that following the change of the speaker, that we might be seeing a new Minister of Municipal Affairs. And sure enough, that's the news we got. So actually the night that Minister McIver had resigned as minister, he was kind enough to reach out and just let me know. We chatted about how we worked together well over the last couple of years and what his plans were or what he was hoping for moving forward. So I really appreciated the relationship we were able to build over the last couple of years working together. And it meant a lot that he would reach out and let me know the changes that were coming.
What does this mean for municipalities across Alberta? Because this is a kind of a big year for municipalities as we are about to head into summer villages elections in a few months. We're heading into major elections. I say major, all other elections in October. What does this mean for the continuity of working with the province as we are going into an election sort of season with a new potential minister if Minister Scow does not keep that portfolio in the long term?
Yeah, and Minister Scow was pretty clear that this was an interim position, so we will see a new Minister of Municipal Affairs very likely on Friday. So tomorrow, depending on when this airs. And the continuity is extremely important. We've got a bunch of new legislation coming in, changes to the Local Authorities Elections Act, and it's important that we've got a clear line of communication with the Minister of Municipal Affairs. So what I do appreciate is that the morning that Minister Scow was announced as our interim minister, I reached out and sent him a congratulatory message, and he had called within a half an hour. So I appreciate the openness and the willingness to communicate, especially with our board and our members. Yeah, and it's a wait and see. It's no different than anything else. We just hope for the best, and sometimes we plan for the worst.
Okay, so that's a little bit of new information you've just said. So this is going to be going out Thursday night and rather than Friday morning because it will be changing by the time that goes out.
Yeah.
So it changes a few questions that I originally had then because I'm a numbers guy. I like to go back and look at numbers. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs has had 18 ministers in 25 years. And I looked, and because I'm one of these people that looks at this, goes this far into detail, since you were elected in 2013, you, as a counselor and now mayor, have had to deal with 12 ministers, 13, including whoever becomes it on Friday morning. You're While municipalities have a 4-year mandate, they stay on for 4 years unless there's a by-election. There is continuity there. Does this make municipalities' life harder when municipal affairs minister changes so often?
I don't think so. I think it has the potential to create some difficulties. I think this is a big reason why Alberta municipalities exist and why we do so well for our members is that we're the continuity, we're the connection. We've built relationships with ministers, we've built relationships with different deputy ministers and ADMs. So while that changes on the outside, the personal relationship is still there, and our staff have really good relationships with many of the DMs and ADMs. So when those changes happen, we've got that relationship built and we carry on. And at the same time, we're able to share maybe some new ideas or there's new eyes looking at something when a new minister comes in or new administration comes in. So it's not always a bad thing. I wouldn't even say it's a bad thing. I think change is inevitable and it can be good. So we'll just wait and see. I'd hate to speculate that it's going to be worse just because a new minister is going to be appointed.
But losing someone like Rick McIver in that portfolio is a big loss to municipalities. He was a municipal leader. He was an alderman in Calgary for some time before being elected provincially. The new minister, whoever he or she may be on Friday morning, will have a lot to do and a lot to sort of catch up on. Are you hopeful that you'll be able to get a sit down interview or sit down meeting with the new minister, whoever they may be, on Friday or sometime early next week? Because you have elections that are coming up, you have changes that are going on with some of the bills that are going through the legislature right now. It seems like this is an important time for municipalities in the province to be working together.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be a priority for us, no question. Our members rely on us making sure we have the connection with, especially the Minister of Municipal Affairs, but with the provincial government. So for sure, it'll be a priority for us to make sure that the new minister that's coming in has an understanding of where we stand, what our role is, and then being able to share some of the concerns we have with that new legislation that is either has been passed or is in the process. So we'll
Do
see
you
it as
have
an opportunity. Yeah, we'll see it as an opportunity.
do you have a odds-on favorite? I know we're waiting for the white smoke here to billow from the Alberta legislature, but are you optimistic that they'll put in someone that it can work with or has past municipal experience? Or are you willing to work with whoever Premier Smith chooses as the next Minister of Municipal Affairs?
We get to work with whoever the premier puts in as municipal affairs. So I was at the energy show yesterday, so Wednesday, and we had the premier's breakfast. So I got a chance to talk to her actually, and shared with her how grateful I was that Minister Scow had reached out, and of course, if she was open to suggestions on who that new minister could be, I'd be willing to pass a name along. So, and she was. So that was. The media loves, and maybe not you specifically, but sometimes you loves to poke it and see where the cracks are showing, especially between association and provincial government. There's always that assumption that just because the provincial government isn't listening to Alberta municipalities, that there's a bad relationship. But there are lots of conversations that go on behind the scenes, and lunches that are had or dinners that are had, and making sure that we maintain that relationship. We don't, and we're not always going to agree, but yeah, for sure, I had a preference for who that new minister was going to be, and that comes through conversation with our board and conversation with other members of council across the province.
Um, I just want to end on talking about Minister McIver again for a second because, like I said, this is a big loss for municipalities. He was, and again, I'm a nerd and I look at these things, he was the longest serving municipal affairs minister in the last 25 years, even though he did have a brief hiatus when Rebecca Schultz took over, now environment minister. From your perspective as president, because he's the only one that you've dealt with, I believe, since you've become president. What was his relationship like with you to be able to talk about the things that are going on in the municipal sector?
It was fantastic. Again, we're not always going to agree on things, and things can sometimes, I wouldn't say they got heated, but for sure, we are on very different ends of the opinion, or what we should be doing in terms of new legislation being introduced. But I have so much respect for Minister McIver as a person as well as a minister, regardless of the portfolio that he sat on. So yeah, I can tell you a bunch of examples of me reaching out to him and him either calling me back within minutes or a text coming back within seconds. The different webinars that we were able to set up when we had the changes to the CPOs and having them fall under the direct command of the local police. He's been fantastic. I really admire his straightforward approach. He's got an answer for you. You might not like it, but at least you're not left hanging, wondering where he stands on something, because he was pretty clear on where he stood on something and the work that he was going to be doing moving forward. If he didn't agree with you, he'd tell you. If there was some room to work with that, he would tell you. So there's a lot to be said about that, because not everybody is like that.
Well, he'll have big shoes to whoever fills that position has big shoes to fill, but I'm assuming he is a happy guy being the speaker of the legislature, trying to keep the rules and regulations all done correctly there in that seat. Tyler, always a pleasure to sit down with you. As of you just telling me that we're going to be probably chatting tomorrow for the new cabinet shuffle or early next week. So always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chris.
We also turn our attention to the rural side of the province, where priorities and pressures often look a little bit different. We spoke with Rural Municipalities of Alberta President Kara Westerland to get her thoughts on this latest ministerial change, what it means for Alberta's rural communities, especially as they gear up for this upcoming municipal season. And for many rural leaders, consistency in leadership is key to addressing long-standing infrastructure challenges, emergency preparedness, and land use planning, all of which fall under the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. Now, we sat down with President Westerland to emphasize the importance of this, maintaining that strong, stable communication between the province and rural municipalities, particularly in times of transition. President Westerland, thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting about the kind of roller coaster that municipal affairs has been on over the last week. Minister McIver announced earlier on that he was resigning as minister and became speaker. Premier Smith has come out and appointed Joseph Scow as interim Minister of Municipal Affairs. From your perspective as president of RMA, how's the last week been, and how's the transition from Minister McIver to Minister Scow been?
It's actually been great so far. Obviously, we're not sure how long Minister Scow will be in place, but happy to report within 30 minutes of the change and the announcement, Minister Scow had actually reached out to myself via phone call and text message, and offered any services, or if we needed anything, that he was just a quick call or a phone call, text away. So we really appreciate that. And, we were truly going to miss Minister McIver. He was a strong voice for municipalities in this province with the GOA, and we are going to miss him. I've been asked, and a really sad day for us. Um, but at the same time, really happy for Minister McIver to take that role on and move on. But we are surely going to miss him.
He was the only minister that you, as president, have worked with, but you have worked with other ministers in the past. What was his contribution to rural municipalities across the province in your time working with him side by side as president and minister?
Rick was always open to having a chat, a phone call, or a text message. He was accessible to us too. At any point, it could be 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night, and something burning was happening. And we were able to communicate back and forth. And just that access to the minister is, it's pretty much unheard of. So I hope that we have something like that going forward, and have that open door policy. We are truly going to miss them. We've obviously had some big accomplishments and some big wins for municipalities in the recent months, one being with the ICFs. And that was a huge win for us. And there had been a lot of work and discussion between RMA as well as the elected officials in rural Alberta, and with the minister and his staff, to push those kind of changes coming forward. So the new minister that's coming in, there is going to be some pressing issues. Obviously, they're going to have to hit the ground running, but the door is definitely open. It is always open with RMA and with myself. And I think the best steps forward is always having that open door policy, and be able to communicate openly and freely, as we are trying to do what's best for our communities.
While the pleasantries are out of the way, now I've got to ask some very political questions, and I've got to start by a simple one. This is kind of coming at a very turbulent time for municipalities in the province of Alberta. Minister McIver has been sort of the bedrock over the last few years. He is one of the longest serving ministers of municipal affairs in the last, I would say, 20 years. And I'm going to get into some data here in about 2 seconds. But we are about to go into a new era of municipal affairs. And we have a big important election coming up in October, and that is municipal elections. And there's a lot of statutes that have been changing. Is this an opportune time to sort of reflect and say, we kind of wish he didn't resign, because now we're going to have to put the new minister on the hot seat and sort of teach him by drinking from the fire hose?
It is definitely a concern of ours. We know whoever takes that position is going to have to hit the ground running. We have a number of key important issues that are looming. One of them being is the task force that we had just set up. Minister McIver, myself, and with Minister Jean, it was just announced at the fall election to deal with the unpaid oil and gas taxes. So that is a big piece. That task force is in its final stages of being put together. Terms of reference, we are concerned with that one, but I know anybody that steps into these roles, even on the elected officials side, we know that the premier and those who are in charge of those appointments will know what the key issues are moving forward, and know that they're going to have to put somebody in that's going to be able to kind of pick up that ball and get rolling quicker than not. The other one that we have kind of brewing just under the surface is obviously with the assessment model review. It's underway, and there's some glaring issues with that process too as well. So there's two key items that we need to sit down with the new minister almost immediately and get to work on. And you did touch on, we do have some important dates coming up this fall, one of them being the municipal election, and what things will look like on the landscape coming out of that too as well.
Okay, but on the flip side of that, because again, I'm a nerd and I go into this much detail. You were first elected in 2010. Now, since 2010, there have been, and I'm quoting this because I've done the research, 15 ministers of municipal affairs in your time as a councillor and now as a RMA president. That's one per year. That's a lot of changeover. How do municipalities move forward when there's such a turbulent sort of revolving door of municipal affairs ministers in that position?
And you know what? It's complex. It's challenging for sure. And I think, we were so thankful that Minister MacIver has been in the position as long as he has been. And we do have that concern. We know it's been a bit of a revolving door over the years. So we sure hope going forward that the government takes the lead and appoints someone that's going to be there, for the long term, not the short term. I do, and I understand it. It's a junior position on in the kind of the ministry world, and we understand that. But at the same time, it's
But
also
is it
important.
though? Is it because I'm not trying to be glib about
Yeah,
that because
yeah,
municipalities and you're the most prominent person in rural municipalities on the show right now that would say municipalities are on the forefront of a lot of big changes right now and it's not a junior position to be putting someone and I don't want to say get their feet wet but
yeah.
someone who doesn't have the experience.
Well, and that's going to be instrumental moving forward. You and I both know the type of massive issues that we're facing on the municipal landscape. And I was actually going to build into my bigger point is, as we see it, it isn't a junior position anymore. Maybe in the past it's been treated that way, but going forward, it should be going hand in hand with all ministries in the GOA. And I sure hope a lot of thought and has gone into who's going to be the replacement. I have been on the RMA board and as an elected official since 2010, and I have seen the difficulties when we do get an individual in that position that has no municipal background or no municipal experience, whether that's from the elected official standpoint or even from the administration standpoint. We've seen those challenges, and our fingers are crossed, and we're really truly hoping that we get somebody that understands municipalities, so we don't have to take that time to explain who we are, why we exist, what we do, and why we're important.
While we are waiting for the white smoke to appear from the Alberta legislature, for those who don't get that reference, I apologize. That's a Roman Catholic joke for inside baseball. Do you have a name that you're looking at? Is there someone that you're looking at for that position of Minister of Municipal Affairs? You don't need to say the name if you don't want to,
Yeah.
but or are you willing to work with whomever Premier Smith appoints to that position in the days or weeks to come?
Yeah, and I'll be frank. You know what? We are willing to work with whoever gets that position. But I think what I said earlier, and I truly believe in that. I hope that we do get someone, and that the appointment goes to somebody with municipal background, whether that's being elected official or on the administration side. You and I both know how complex the Municipal Government Act is in this province. It's the second largest piece of legislation outside of the Insurance Act. It is a big deal. It's a big responsibility. And if you don't have that basic core understanding of who we are and what we do, it's going to be challenging moving forward. But that being said, if we do get someone in there, I am willing to take the time to sit down at the table and explain the importance and the relevance of who we are and what we do and what we represent in this province.
The next minister will have very big shoes to fill, Minister McIver, and even Minister Schultz. When she was minister, I know RMA had good working relationships with her as Minister of Municipal Affairs. What's priority number one, do you believe that the next minister has to do to ensure that the work that Minister McIver did doesn't end with the new minister coming in?
From RMA's perspective, obviously, it's that task force that we've got set up and pretty much ready to hit the ground running. So my fingers are crossed. I don't want any more delays with that. I know I was a little bit maybe excited and chomping at the bit, so to speak. I want some resolution to this issue. I'm hoping by the fall convention for our members. It's not a new issue. It's been around, since I've been on the board for over 7 years. So for us, that's going to be probably key. First and foremost is with that task force. Also, you are aware there's some big changes coming to a number of bills. Bill 50, Bill 49. I know some of them don't quite touch this ministry, but it affects municipalities deeply. In the sense of financial risk too with that, and the shape and who we are as an autonomy of government, and autonomy in our own areas. So That's going to be first and front and foremost too, as well as we are working and we're pushing really hard for some of the changes that we've been asking for in a number of those bills. In you know, one of them is it's an like a omnibus bill. It's quite big, and there's a lot that changes the landscape for us. So we will continue to push on those fronts. And try and include some of the meaningful changes that need to happen with those legislation pieces of legislation as they move forward.
President, always a pleasure to sit down and chat with you. I feel like this is not the last conversation we have this week or even the next few hours, but thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, and thank you to your listeners and your viewers too as well.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Municipal Affairs. Now, as mentioned by President Tyler Gandam, if there is a cabinet shuffle on Friday morning, we will have a brand new episode on Saturday of reaction of that cabinet shuffle and reaction of the new Minister of Municipal Affairs from the municipal perspective. To stay in the loop of that episode and potentially all new upcoming episodes, don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. Now, to learn more about the communities and the people that we feature on this show and all our sister shows, visit us online at crossborderinterviews.ca. Now, your support means the world to us. So share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community, and help keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll be back with a brand new episode of Municipal Affairs shortly. Till then, everyone.